This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Advocate and Deputy Party Leader of Safina Party is Willis. He's here with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yes, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yes.
Karibu.
Asante sana.
Things seem to be boiling on a different level across board. So we're glad that you joined us to then be able to have this conversation today. Our KTN political reporter is Alan Ochanda. He's here with us as well this morning hosting.
Nice meeting you, Alan.
Nice meeting you too.
So this week, our proverbs take us to Egypt. Of course, you understanding the civilizations of this country and some of the things that then they've been able to achieve. Not, of course, forgetting their spat with Ethiopia, things that have happened over time in terms of the construction of a dam, in terms of who's going to hold the development card for the continent. But this is a proverb that they've shared, and I think it's interesting. We'd love to get your interpretation of it. Stretch your legs as far as your blanket extends. Stretch your legs as far as your blanket extends. What do you make of that?
Push your limits up to what you'll be comfortable with. You stretch your legs beyond the blanket, you'll be sleeping out in the cold.
You'll be sleeping out in the cold.
Yes.
All right. There's a litany of things in the country at the moment, and whether that spills over to the region or this then is dictated by what happens in the world. We're looking at the state of the nation with you this morning. And then there are certain things that you've said over time that you've been consistent with. And as we got closer and closer to a time where people are going to make a decision about who their leaders are moving forward, you've more or less said that anybody who is not directly involved with how economics will change for Kenyans doesn't have any business being in office.
I still maintain that position. I want Kenyans to understand this. Last week, the National Treasury and some members of Parliament from the Budget Committee went to IMF, the World Bank, last week. Yeah. And then IMF and World Bank told them, before we discuss anything about your lending, we need to understand your debt. What is your total debt? And they were told your total debt, if you take in securitization, the declared debt, and pending bills, your debt is 14 trillion Kenya shillings. They've been going around town saying it is 12.6. Now they're being told your total debt stock is 14 trillion. Tell us how you are going to bridge and pay this.
Yes.
And remember, your revenue collection, tax revenue collection is 2.4 trillion per year.
Yes.
Your debt finance this financial year is 2.4 trillion. So anybody aspiring for leadership are not dealing with this debt problem. You're wasting everybody's time. Because we'll be here telling you must go. You must confront the debt problem. Maybe in context, I should put it this way. If we use the figure of 12.6 trillion, every Kenyan, 60 million of us, as a projected total population, we each owe around 220,000 Kenya shillings. So, we need your 220,000. Alan, give us 220,000. And everybody around you, everybody plus children, newly borns, they owe 220,000 Kenya shillings. So what you're struggling with is how to collect the 220,000 Kenya shillings from everybody. And William Ruto tries to do it by raising your taxes, charges, and levies. And disproportionately, for those, if we perceive that you earn more, you'll pay it more. Those who earn less are captured in VAT, because VAT is universal to everybody. So we are all trying to raise our 220,000 Kenya shillings to pay for debt. Now, prudence will require that, okay, if you're asking me to pay 220,000 Kenya shillings, open the debt register.
Show us.
I need to see what am I paying for? And how much have I paid? And how much do I owe? And what was this money applied towards? Show me the projects that this debt financed that I am now struggling to pay it. If you've not done that, then you're wasting everybody's time.
Why would it be so difficult to be open and transparent about the money that's owed? I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer. You went to the IMF, who, of course, is a twin sister of the World Bank. You said very clearly that the debt is 14.6 trillion. They've said this is what it is, asking how you're going to pay it. Why wouldn't you want to be open and transparent about what is owed?
Because of what as a Safina Party we normally say. This debt is largely odious. Odious in the sense that it was taken without following the laws of Kenya. And number two, the bulk of it was not applied to any project. The PFM Act requires that you only borrow for development. And if you do a trace of the debt, some of it went into people's private accounts offshore. But the obligation to pay is what landed into Kenya. And who are the people responsible? Some of them are in the former Jubilee administration. Some of them are in this administration. So they stole your tax in advance. So if you ask them to be, that debt register to be opened, they were partakers. They will not be willing to do it. You will expose their fraud. These people understood one thing from 2014. Stealing in the budget is the easiest to be caught because you have a controller of budget watching over you. You have a national budget that is passed by Parliament. We can all trace release of funds. And we know the maximum quantum. So they decided, okay, this one will be just to stealing on the budget will just be to lie to Kenyans. But the main theft is on your debt. I'll steal your future because you are not there. You are not present when we are borrowing. You don't know what we've borrowed. We'll only tell the obligation to pay. You don't even care where the money goes after it has been borrowed. That is what happened during Uhuru's time and is happening in Ruto's time. They are stealing your future. Debt is tax in advance.
Now, when you look at this debt and the amount of money that is paid on, let's just take it a monthly basis because it kind of then are able to maybe consume it a little bit better. That there's certain amounts of money, and we also know on the fund, the first charge is debt.
Yes.
Before you can even do anything, what is owed or whomever it's paid, that's where it goes on revenue. Now, there's very little left for development.
In fact, if you want to understand it better, I know that I always say Kenyans just don't pay attention to the details.
Okay.
Every second week of the month, the National Treasury releases the statement of actual expenditures and revenues. Actuals, not estimates. Look at the January actuals. 196 billion shillings was collected. Came into the exchequer account.
This was which month?
January. 196 billion.
Okay.
What they expended as debt finance was 194 billion. Pretty much almost everything.
There was 2 billion left.
Yeah. Pretty much everything went into debt. And you don't want to ask yourself, if this was the largest expenditure item of my revenue that I collected, what was I paying for? That is what we should be demanding. What were we paying for?
Because if you're paying 194 billion shillings towards something, my thought has often been that you should be able to see this thing that is requiring this large debt repayment off of. We keep giving the example of the expressway, which we already know was inflated. We talk about the SGR, again, another project that was inflated, should have been able to do it for maybe half or if not less of the amount that was later on said. What is this thing that was done that is going to require a monthly or rather maybe a quarterly payment of 194 billion shillings off of revenue? What is that? Can you see it? Or is it a collective project?
No, let me tell you. Like SGR, for example. Go and look at the Kenya Railways, because the total project was 500 billion. Kenya Railways was making counterpart funds, they were paying 10%. That is 50 billion. Go and check the statement of actuals. How much left Treasury to Kenya Railways, from Kenya Railways to China Road and Bridge.
Okay.
And ask how much China Exim paid to Kenya Railways, to China Road and Bridge. From Treasury to Kenya Railways to China Road, it was meant to be 50 billion, the counterpart funds, 10%. But if you look at the books, Kenya Railways paid China Road and Bridge a total of 670 billion, not 50 billion.
620 billion
70.
shillings more.
Yes,
620 billion shillings more.
Exactly. And at the same time, the same China Road and Bridge went to China Exim every time they got the certificates, and they did drawdowns. They collected the 450 billion that was due at the loan. But in essence, the Kenyan people paid for that amount, that railway, using their own tax revenue.
Didn't need the loan.
They didn't need the loan. So you have here, you've paid your tax money, has gone in, 670 billion of your tax money has gone to the China Road and Bridge. 450 has come from China Exim to China Road and Bridge. That's an odious debt. We'll simply say, China Road and Bridge, explain to us, how are we paying this debt and you collected the money from us? Why did you get that money from China Exim? If Kenya Railways, instead of paying you 50, paid you 670. That's the problem. We do not pay attention to what that matters. To put it in simple context, you're in a household, a family, the headman comes and tells you, we're using our family resources to pay for a Mercedes-Benz. DT Dobby, this is our DT Mercedes-Benz, this is the loan we have, we are paying DT Dobby this much every month. And the householders willingly contribute. Some provide cheap labor to the neighborhood to collect money to pay DT Dobby for the Mercedes-Benz. But there's only one problem. There's no Mercedes-Benz that the householders are using. It's just the obligation to pay for that Mercedes-Benz. But it doesn't exist. That is where we are. So if we are prudent householders, you'll ask, okay, fine, we've collected our little meager resources to pay for this Mercedes-Benz.
But it's not there.
But it's not there. Where is it? Why can't you enjoy it? Why can't you give it to us? That is what debt is about. But Kenyan people don't seem to pay attention to it. Then, something else that, another mistake we keep making. When you look at our political discourse today, and I'm glad you introduced me as Safina Party deputy leader, party leader, you find people saying, discussing individuals. Oh, Matiang'i, oh, Kalonzo, oh, Ruto, party leader, who? Gachagua. Those are individuals. What do they stand on? You should be asking political parties at this point of people discussing their next elections. What does the political party stand for? So that we are discussing the ideals of the political party. The leader becomes immaterial to our purposes at this point. Until that time when we get close to the elections, then you can now start discussing the individual person. But if the political party cannot even tell you what the ideology is, what do they stand for on the issue that matter to Kenyans, then we are still going back to the same old. We'll be exactly where we are, even once we remove William Ruto, because William Ruto, him going is going. He will go. But William Ruto will not go away with the debt problem.
It will
when
remain.
Ruto goes, the debt book register will remain as it is. If you get somebody else who adopts the same practice of William Ruto, or was part of William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta in the past, they'll maintain the register and the practices and accumulate more illegal debts. So we should not be saying William Ruto must go and it ends there. We should be saying William Ruto has gone. He's just now wasting everybody's time as we wait for the day of his departure. But we should be asking, he is going and he's leaving you with this debt. What is your proposal to deal with the debt problem? If you don't have it, then rest assured your first finance bill, you'll be raising taxes, charges, and levies. Gen Z will go back to the streets, joined by Gen Alpha, to chase you, and you will kill them just like William Ruto did. You will blockade Parliament, you will blockade yourself to State House, and it will be a vicious cycle of more of the same. And I speak to I call them my compatriots, those who are the professional league. Because why do you allow ourselves to be caught up in this euphoria of individuals? You find somebody cheering there, Gachagua, oh, Kalonzo, oh, Matiang'i. Oh. But ask yourself deep down beyond this euphoria, what is it that we care about? What is it presenting as the solution to our problem? Is it attending to our problem? Or is it just exciting your tribal sentiments? We must ask ourselves these deep questions. And I'll not blame the masses. I'll blame my compatriots. Those who are more knowledgeable, or at least more learned. More is expected of you. And it's upon your duty, it's your responsibility to take the education to those who may not be well versed with these issues.
Right, because then I was going to ask you, how do people then make decisions on a connection between this thing that we talk about, the odious debt, because for a lot of people, we cannot resonate or make the connection between this odious debt and why, for example, students will go to school next week with a 100% increase on term 2 fees in certain schools. They don't understand that because capitation has not reached schools, because there's not enough money to go around, because almost 100% of it goes towards paying debt. Do you see? The connection is not made. So here you are, and you're talking to people, and you're going to line up as a mother or a father at a CDF office at 4 a.m. So now let's be real, Willis. You're going to line up at a constituency office at 4 a.m. to get 3,500 shillings, maybe 2,000, maybe 1,000. Or when they say come and collect bursary checks, you're going to collect 1,000 shilling check. We are not making the connection between this debt that is being paid, which, according to what you're saying, may not actually be owed for something that you received, right?
Yes.
And the fact that because capitation is not sent on time, your children are going back to school on the 28th of April with a term 2 bill where you were paying 18,000 shillings, it is now 37. I'm talking about what I know, not that maybe somebody suggested. This is the crying problem that you're talking about that's still left in the laps of people. And they're saying, how do we get out of this?
Let me explain.
How do you connect the two to get people to say, come on, guys, lights on. This is the problem.
Yes,
Before Wakili, maybe a rider, you, from what you painted, is that these are carefully designed web to maybe, because we are talking about, we're going to IMF. It's like we're underquoting the figures we're actually presenting on the table and not the real figures. And maybe being given an adverse conclusion there, assessment. We are in a deep pit as a country. And your party leader has been on record, times above number, talking about the odious debts. How do you get out of the debt? Do we maybe refuse to pay? And if we refuse to pay, what happens? Because, of course, the ordinary Kenyan who is watching, who is listening, wants to understand. If you decline paying this debt because you feel like it never really affected your lives positively, what happens to you in the future? Because you're saying we've been robbed of our future.
Let me start by saying this. This financial year, you're paying 2.4 trillion Kenya shillings in debt finance as a country. 2.4 trillion.
Yeah.
Education, primary, secondary, TVET, if you do the costing capitation, comes to 260 billion. 265 to be precise. Now, when you go to pay this 2.4 trillion towards debt, you are depriving education of capitation. Now, Safina Party, what we are saying, will not pay that illegal debt. We'll be 2.4 trillion richer. We'll take from the 2.4 trillion that could have gone to debt finance, take 265 billion, apply it to education. Primary, secondary, TVET. Healthcare, universal healthcare in this country, costed is 180 billion. That's the total cost of healthcare in the country. 180
billion.
180 billion. So you have
2.4 trillion.
4 trillion. We have only moved to 65 billion. We are left with around 2.1 something trillion. Get 180 billion. Put in healthcare. Do you know what that does is this? You are now reallocating resources to what matters to the people. You are removing social pressures. Remember, 28% of Kenyans are multidimensional poor.
Multidimensional poor.
28% of Kenyans, multidimensional poor.
Explain.
And multidimensional poor means that they are not able to afford they're struggling to pay their healthcare, education, and cost of living is unbearable. So by applying tax revenue towards these social programs, education and health, you automatically remove almost 15% from being multidimensional poverty, because you have now taken care of that which was depriving them. Then go to what Alan is asking. What does this mean if you don't pay? We are a country of the rule of law. If the law says you borrow with parliamentary approval, that is what the law says. That's the Constitution and the PFM Act. The law says you only borrow for development.
Yes.
If I apply the law, I will ask the lenders, do you want me to ignore our laws? This loan that you gave, there was no parliamentary approval for it. There is no development that you're financing. So are you inviting me to ignore our laws? Then I'll ask you, since it's the people's money, we do a referendum with the people of Kenya. Let them decide that we are going to take ownership of that illegal debt that is lying in somebody's private account in Qatar and the Isles of Man. Mozambique, when confronted with a similar situation, they said, we went to court. In their courts, they said, that loan was taken without following the laws of Mozambique. It's odious, it's illegal, Mozambicans cannot pay for it. Consequences, Credit Suisse collapsed. Executives went to jail. Head of finance then in Mozambique, jail. Head of intelligence in Mozambique then, jail. The then president's son, jail. To me, those are the consequences. I don't see any other adverse consequence because by saving 2.4 trillion shillings that could have gone outside, and now you're applying this 2.4 trillion into this economy, and in the process dealing with the question of health for every Kenyan, dealing with the question of education for all Kenyans. And what it achieves is this. You are releasing money back to people's pockets. Because as Ndu is saying, next week's parent is going to pay 100% new school fees, more school fees increment. That parent will retain, in our model as Safina, that parent will retain that money in their pocket. And once she retains it, she will use it in the economy. Consumables, because then now you have more disposable income.
Yeah.
You'll spend more on consumables. As you spend more on consumables, the manufacturers must manufacture more. They must employ more people to manufacture more. So it stimulates the economy to the benefit of all Kenyans. But, you know, the legacy politicians and their surrogates, what they will try to sell to us is that you will be blacklisted. You will not be able to access the national market to lend. Kenya will be a pariah state. Nothing. That is somebody selling you fear so that you can own their criminality. We must tell them the consequence. In fact, with 2.4 trillion, we don't need to borrow anymore anywhere. Because what we've demonstrated is that within ourselves, we are capable of funding our recurrent expenditure and our development. What has been happening is that legal debts were taken which went into people's private pockets that now deprives our budget of funds to run it. So our model as Safina, I invite Kenyans, we debate it. The idea, and I say, when I say, we should be discussing this based on what is your political party position, not individual. So this is not Willis Otieno's position. This is the Safina Party position. So anybody discussing Safina Party, no, this is what we stand for. Our first agenda. No payment of odious debts. Education becomes free, primary, secondary, TVET. You apply your tax money that could have gone to odious debt towards education. No payment of healthcare services. Your tax money that's already was going towards paying illegal debt applies to healthcare services to all Kenyans. We are saying VAT, cost of living is high. Do away with VAT in totality.
Not reduction.
We do away with VAT, introduce only 5% sales tax. The cost of goods and services must fall by 11%. Right? And we are saying no borrowing in the domestic market. Release funds in the domestic market to be accessible to private sector, you and I.
Access to credit.
Access to credit, and interest rates will fall. With access to credit, with your great ideas as Kenyans, you'll be able to turn your innovations into profit. That is what Safina is about, and that is what we want to be discussed based on Safina. The same should be extended to other political parties. DCP, what is your agenda? Wiper, Jubilee, Renaissance, whatever party. This is the agenda. Then we just discuss political party issues. What is the issue you stand on? What's the ideology that informs this political party? But you bring personalities later. If you start with personalities,
you eclipse everything.
Yeah. Okay. Then now you dilute even the conversation. It starts being, oh, Willis is good, Willis is bad, so and so is fat, so and so is.
What are you talking about?
I want to take a break, Ochanda,
sure,
on this. Let's take a break and we'll come back. Because then, in addition to what Ochanda is saying, then perhaps we can look at then why it doesn't make sense to start with the individual who's saying, I essentially am the savior. If we're looking at these issues where they say we're going to fix education, we're going to fix healthcare, can you really fix them if you owe so much money? Or in this case, don't owe so much money. Willis is here with us this morning. We'll take a break, look at weather, traffic, come back, continue after this.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Only way to start your day.
It was an investment by the Kenyan people. Nowhere in the scheme of things did the Kenyan people envisage that we will be stripping off these assets and use the money to build roads. Because already in their laws, they had set up a parliament that will going to allocate money towards construction of roads, and they set up a road maintenance levy, fuel levy, that will be used to maintain those roads. So at no point did we ever envisage that these assets that we've owned, that we've bought, we'll be stripping them and use the money as collaterals to build roads. Then why do we have the national budget in the first place? These were meant to be revenue earning streams for the people continuously, not one-off. What they're doing is stripping them. It's the contrary. But it tells you one thing. It's a recognition within government that this debt is the problem. Because they are not capable of doing anything within the budget. You see William Ruto launching roads here every day. He launches a road at the beginning, somewhere in the middle, or somewhere at the end, and nothing happens. And people don't ask himself, why is he doing this? Because he must find something to lie to Kenyans that he's doing. Because if indeed he had money, he will go into the budget and he will find those projects and they will do them. But in the budget, there's nothing because 90%, almost now 80% of your tax revenue is going towards debt finance. So if he was a prudent leader, which is not, because he's complicit in the legal debts, he will have said, I'm not going to spend 80% of my tax revenue towards debt finance, thereby depriving the Kenyan people of certain services. I will open that debt register. Find out what is legal, what is illegal. Whatever is legal, I will pay. Is legal, I will pay. Whatever is illegal, people must bear responsibility, accountability. And also ask yourself, in between, from 2014 to date, how much has the Kenyan people paid out towards debt finance? Because we've never defaulted. And if you've never defaulted, then it means we've been up to date with your debt. But how comes your debt figures keep going up?
Yeah.
Which debt is this? That the more you are paying, the higher it goes.
You've never defaulted.
And you've never defaulted. At no point have you ever defaulted in either payment of interests or principals when they became due. You've always paid dutifully.
Okay, so if that's the case, and for all avoidance of doubt, if we're saying the debt is odious, that means that there are individuals or cartels or whatever the case may be, organized groups of people who have diverted funds that were meant for development because the money is owed, so somebody received the money.
No, the money is not owed. Somebody received the money in the name of the people of Kenya, took it to his private account somewhere.
So to be clear, this is exactly what we're saying.
What he brought the Kenyan people is the obligation to pay.
To pay.
So Safina, in our confidence, we are saying that is not the money owed by the people of Kenya.
That's another agreement that you had over here.
That is between you and those thieves. Because if you are following the laws of Kenya, you should have asked the person who walked into your office, where is the approval of Parliament? Look, give me the answered and the votes and proceedings of the House that passed this. You'll ask, which is the project we are funding? And in terms of project finance, it normally is done in drawdowns. No financial institution prudent will give you all the money at once. They'll be saying, okay, who's the contractor? We'll be doing drawdowns once we do a certificate. And even then, they'll go to this project site to confirm that indeed the project is going on and that the stage of development that they're saying they're claiming a certificate on, we've reached.
So if that's the case, why has there been, in your opinion, no fervent go after individuals who may have done this? The thing about money is that it leaves a trail, especially in this world in which it's not people carrying gunny bags of cash.
Yes.
Money leaves a trail. You can see where it went, if it left, if it arrived, and if it actually arrived, if it was taken away. It leaves a trail. So why wouldn't we see that if this is odious debt, that why aren't the individuals who've moved this money gone after?
Let me refresh your memory.
Okay.
In 2014, Kenya took $2 billion Eurobond.
Eurobond, yes.
$1 billion you could trace. Raila Odinga at that time was making noise. He wanted to occupy National Treasury. And he told Rotich, I'm coming for you. We are coming to occupy Treasury. $650 million was sent to settle an older loan that had been taken by the Grand Coalition government. 350 billion paper trail could be traced to central bank exchequer accounts. And Rotich released the SWIFTs showing all of this. That is 1 billion accounted for.
Yes.
1 billion. Rotich said, no, you've accounted for 1 billion. I want for the other remaining 1 billion. If you don't give me by this date, I am coming to occupy National Treasury with the people. That was in 2014. That night, at midnight, Rotich posted on the National Treasury website. He released the SWIFT for the other 1 billion. But what had he done? He redacted. He showed where the money is coming from, JP Morgan.
Didn't show where it went.
But where it went, he redacted it. That money went into somebody's private account in Qatar. That is what was redacted. So, you are telling Kenyan people to pay that loan to JP Morgan, Eurobond, when the money is lying in somebody's private account in Qatar. And you're telling me that we should fear the international consequences. I'm ready for those consequences, Safina Party. We are ready for those consequences. Tell us why we should finance somebody's private venture. Because that is not money taken in the name of the people of Kenya. Then you asked me, why are we not dealing with this?
Yes.
Because within this current administration, there are people who are complicit. The Accountant General, who was there with Uhuru Kenyatta, is the same Accountant General today. Has he been changed? No. William Ruto was the Deputy President. Who was the number one defender of Eurobond? It was William Ruto.
Yes.
He's the president today. Of course, they learned the things they were doing with Uhuru Kenyatta, with the Accountant General. They are doing them today. Same old. Nothing has changed. So the only solution we can find is if the sovereign, the Kenyan people, the ultimate payer of that debt, decides to either own that debt by voting for people who brought that debt. Then they say, fine, we wanted to give you a good golden handshake that you can always borrow in our name and take the money to your private accounts abroad. We will own it, we will pay, we will suffer. If they want it, fair enough. But if they want accountability, if they're saying we are not going to own it, then they must force this to be a conversation amongst everybody who desires to lead them. And within themselves, they should find a leadership that is tasked with the responsibility. As Safina Party, we are saying, we will not pay it. So if you are voting Safina, you are joining Safina, you know that the number one commitment that the party has given is we are not paying Odious debt. And the second thing we are doing, we are saying, you will not pay, now the Kenyan people, you will not pay for education. You will not pay for healthcare. You will not pay 16% VAT. You'll pay 5% sales tax. The difference between what Safina is saying and what legacy politicians say is this. We are not saying we will do to you. We are telling you what you will do. You will not pay education. You will not pay healthcare. We are actually inciting you in advance against us if we try to go contrary to the agreement. Because that is what people are going to vote for. They're going to vote for themselves that I'm not going to pay for education, I'm not going to pay for healthcare.
You're not going to vote for an individual, is what you're saying.
Yes,
I'm
voting for these issues.
Okay.
And to finance what we are telling you that you'll be accessing without paying extra costs, we are saying we are not dealing with paying the Odious debt. So the commitment to make sure that the Kenyan people don't pay that illegal debt is upon us. If you don't, you boot us out. Because that is what the Kenyan people are supposed to be invited to vote for when it comes to Safina. But if they want to vote for tribe, I think there are many political parties that are anchored on tribe and Mtuwetu politics. More of the same.
Whereas when you explain it, it's clear and it makes sense. We still have a lot of folks who are hinged on. I mean, with people, just the other day, I mean, I don't think that we even heard what he said, but a party leader of a dominant party in the country said, I can hear you guys making noise, essentially, but just wait. The next person who is going to speak after me will come and settle you. Essentially, what he was saying is that the money that you've come to this rally, or the money that you come for this meeting to get, don't worry. The person who comes after me is coming to sort you out. So we're still hinged on handouts or what you can take. Is it still in replace, or it's a replacement for political allegiance? Is it in replacement for a vote? I say, okay, fine. Say whatever you want to say at this point, but I'm on what I'm going to get today. Do we still have many people who are hinged on that thing, that I can take a handout, I need it today, I'm not even listening to what you have to say, and yes, we have to make a decision, but right now my problems far outweigh any kind of, political allegiance. I'll say what you need. If you mean to show up in a rally dressed in a certain way, I'll do it. So long as I get something at the end of the day. We still have too many people floating in that pool.
Londo, the unfortunate bit, and I'll talk again to my compatriots. These are my age mates, and the professionals, my age group, the people we grew up with. And I'm sure they're the ones who listen to us mostly. And I'll say this. Why have you surrendered your political fate to political charlatans? How many people, even amongst our listeners, go to political rallies? How many can claim to have received even 100 shillings from a politician? Very few of them have actually received this political money. Me, I've gone out to the people. And I can tell you, the bulk of the Kenyan voter does not attend a political rally.
Okay.
And the bulk of that voter does not receive even a coin from a politician. But the unfortunate bit is they've allowed those optics of rallies. That is why you see legacy politicians invest in those things. They allowed the optics of political rallies to influence their decision. That when you see people, a huge mass of people in a particular corner cheering a particular individual, you who is not there, you who is reasonable, you are at home, you start getting persuaded that that is where I should be. You abandon your issue, and now you start accepting a path that even if you're asked, where is this path leading to? You cannot even tell. You ask somebody, okay, why are you supporting X? You will not mention names. Even say, Gashago, it is Matiangi, it is Kalonzo, if it is Ruto. Why are you supporting? They will not tell you. Why? Because they are fed with the optics of what they see when these political leaders go out to the masses.
But to that end, Wakili, is it surrendering, or they have been subdued?
I call it surrender because nothing stops you from maintaining a honest, genuine conversation on a platform where you are, within your own space. You can say, no, me, I am about issues, and this is my issue. I'm going to look for a political party that supports this issue. And that becomes your anchor.
You see, it's a painful reality that we've calibrated our politics to rotate around money. Yesterday, like for instance, the former Chief Justice, David Maraga, was in my backyard in Mumias. Those people who attended his meeting, it was an organic crowd. They were accountable. Maybe he's on record. He said he's not partaking in handouts. For you and your party leader, I worked in Meru. He was frequent in Meru, opening offices. I never saw those. Maybe he was giving behind the curtain, behind the doors, but I was not privy to that. But for those politicians who are actually dishing out handouts, you can see the multitudes. But you can easily tell these are not organic crowds. But eventually, they will determine the direction.
No, that is my problem.
Don't you think eventually they determine?
My fight is with those who are not in those rallies. The ones who are getting their political news from other channels, social media, mainstream media, newspapers. They're allowing those boat crowds to influence their decision. Because remember, even if you go to a crowd, how many people will attend a rally? In its best day of days, when Urupak was working, how many people can fill Urupak? Maybe around 10,000, 20,000. But Nairobians are 5 million, almost 6. So you're telling me those 10,000 who are at the Urupak rally are going to influence your decision, and you say that is okay. You can as well say, no, that is just for optics. Don't buy the optics. Stick to the issue.
Yeah.
I admire Maraga's resilience on sticking to the issue that he believes in. And within the space of those who are not meeting him or those who are not attending the legacy politicians' rallies, they are able to find on social media what is Maraga's message, what is the Safina message that we stand for. If this message resonates with you, you push it within your circles. But if you want to say that I've surrendered, that I call it surrendering your fate to political charlatans controlled by legacy politicians, then you get what you deserve. Garbage in, garbage out. You stop being a victim. You are now a co-conspirator to the continued enslavement of the people of Kenya. And I'm inviting Kenyans in their numbers. We must all, in our own spaces, decide we are not going to be slaves of this political establishment and this political system.
Yeah.
Those optics should not influence you when you're making a decision. You should be able to define at a sober moment what is the real issue. And Safina Party, we are saying the real issue right now is in your own house. It is in education, it's in cost of living, it's in healthcare. Middle class in Kenya is only 15% of the population. 15%. And that 15% population, middle class that you're saying, is just one disease away from poverty. One disease. You just get one disease which nobody calls a disease upon themselves. Yeah. It's an act of nature. No one knows when they get sick. You see an entire family wiped out, going back to severe poverty. I told you 28% of the population is multidimensional poor. Those are things you are living with inside your house. It's got nothing to do with somebody standing in a political rally in Luanda. It is your household. So you should be asking yourself, if I'm going to cast my vote, if I'm going to make a political choice, what is the party saying in relation to the cost of living, to the healthcare, to the education issue in my house, right inside my house? That you leave your house to go and vote to solve the problem that is inside your house.
And that's the thing, that you're going to vote to solve a problem. You're going to vote to sort out a particular issue. And have we evolved to that place whereby the realization of that is what is front and center? On Monday here, we asked people the question, what are you voting for? What are you voting for? And it is interesting that a lot of people actually brought out the issues, Willis. People said, well, it's this is the issue. We didn't hear one name from nobody mentioned a name. So we come to the realization that Kenyans are actually saying, you know what, these are the issues. Gone are the times where it's an individual, that you like this person, how they look, whatever, but that there are issues that are facing Kenyans today that need to be addressed. Should the focus then be on bringing these people together to actually say, guys, then you realize what the issues are, you realize that you may not be in a good place today, but what you need to do then is take that same inertia and translate it into registering to vote and then actually voting.
And I agree with you. That is part of what we must do. And I want to throw a challenge to the media, because you also play a larger role in shaping the opinion of the people. That going forward, if you were to say we're having a conversation with, you don't have a conversation with politicians, have a conversation with political parties. That we are meeting you as the party leader of this party. Discuss with us your party position. And possibly even call for party debates.
True.
As early as now. Because don't tell me that you are going to join DCP, you're going to join Safina, you're going to join ODM, before you know what is the party position. Let's have party debates where we are saying this political party stands for this. And if I'm joining this party, it's because of the ideology that they've articulated. It has been interrogated, it has been debated, and I believe that is what we deserve as a people. So that nowadays, sometimes you find somebody calling their so-called presidential candidates. 1 year to the election, some people are already saying they're presidential candidates, right?
Yes.
And they're interviewed as presidential candidates.
Yep.
And I ask myself, I mean, this is now about the individual. You've not even told us what your party's position is on the issue, but you're a presidential candidate. That is how we allow individuals to capture our political space. We need to bring it to the point where it is ideologies that capture our political space. Individuals just become plug and play. Once we've articulated the ideologies, the people have understood the ideologies, they've formed an opinion based on which ideology they subscribe to, then now you bring the individuals. And they can do their debates 2 weeks to the elections. Yeah. At that point, we all know what they all stand for. It's just a matter of now testing you.
Yeah.
Are you able to articulate and defend the ideology that we've always known your party to ascribe to?
What do you say about the individual, and of which there are many today, taking all of these things into consideration and saying that, okay, fine, it's a middle class who needs to get serious about this thing, because to a certain extent they understand coming off the place of odious debt and all of this, and how it translates in society whereby education, health, and other things, infrastructure, water suffers. What would you say to that person who says, well, you know what, every time I tried, they've stolen an election. Every time I've tried, this and this has happened, and so let me just sit in the bleachers and watch what will happen
because
next?
What normally happened was, every time you tried, the election was about individuals, not about an ideology. It was never about an issue. You're always voting for legacy politicians, one way or another. That is why every election, once they've campaigned against each other, it is so easy for them to bridge. And those who are fighting hard against each other in the elections, they will shake hands, sit on the government table, and share the spoils.
Yeah.
You don't even see a conversation as to how do we bridge our ideologies. What is the compromises? Never exist. It's just about, I want how many cabinet positions, I want PSS, I want this. And life goes on. You have been voting based on individuals' interests. What my invitation is, you now need to push forward the issue, the ideology, that even if there was supposed to be a compromise later. And remember, if you vote on an ideology, if our politics is based on ideology, all these legacy politicians, they'll fall off.
Right.
Because they don't understand it.
Naturally.
They'll fall off. And at that point, even if majority of Kenyans own this ideology politics space, it becomes far much easier and far much harder for the legacy politicians to reach. Your vote will count.
Yeah.
But if your vote is based on an individual, tough luck.
Indeed.
That is why it is played with here and there.
Your vote will actually count.
This
So
time
have to
your
move.
vote will count.
This time your vote will count.
More so if you are voting based on that issue.
Issue.
Because the issue, when it's an issue, it unites all Kenyans.
Right.
And that vote, let's say the Kenyans people are to say we are voting on the economy. The economy affects all Kenyans irrespective of their tribes. So you can imagine the entire country voting on the economy. Where will the legacy politician find votes to steal?
There's no space for that.
There's no space to steal.
That's very
The whole
clear.
country will be clear on what they want to achieve.
We can't stop talking about these things, Willis, and we thank you for doing this with us this morning. There's a reminder about certain things that have happened. Asante sana.
Thank you
Until
very
the
much.
next one, to Choki. Good morning, 8 a.m., 9 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.